So Mike Huckabee does not like the Iran deal. I mean, he really doesn't like it. So he's going to go to Breitbart this weekend, which is where, of course, crazy conservative hacks like himself usually go to complain about things. And he's going to go there, and he's going to liken the Iran deal with the Holocaust. Oh, no. So he wrote in an op-ed, "This president's foreign policy is the most feckless in American history. It is so naive that he would trust the Iranians. By doing so, he will take the Israelis and march them to the door of the oven." Oof. This is the most idiotic thing, this Iran deal, and it should be rejected by both Democrats and Republicans in Congress and by the American people. I read the whole deal. We gave away the whole store. It's got to be stopped. Yeah, I call bullshit. I don't really think that he read the whole thing. Anyway, so first off, honest comments about trusting Iran. We don't trust Iran. And no one in their right mind is going to trust the mullahs. I mean, really. That's why there's a lot of verification. President Obama said, look, this deal isn't based on trust. This deal is based on verification. Intense verification. Intense scrutiny by the IAEA. In fact, this deal reduces the amount of centrifuges that Iran is able to have and reduces the percent that they're allowed to enrich uranium. Remember, in order to get weapons-grade uranium, you need to enrich to about 90%. I think they cap out at like 3%. But no, not good enough. And the sanctions. Remember, in order, what we get, or what they get from it, is that they get some sanctions released, right? The sanctions, in the first place, didn't really stop their nuclear program. It didn't. Now, as imperfect as this deal is, it does do one thing. The thing that the sanctions couldn't. Prevents Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. But of course, facts don't mean anything to Mike Huckabee. So let's get some reaction here. Now, President Obama said that Huckabee's statement would be, quote, ridiculous if it weren't so sad. Oh. And he essentially points out that, look, Huckabee's trying to out-Trump Donald Trump. Dude, Huckabee, you're like in 7th place. Dude, you're losing. You're not going to out-Donald the Donald. Pack up and go home to Arkansas. You're done. Get out. Nobody wants your brand of bullshit, of your religious fundamentalist shit. So pack up, go home. Go back to Fox News. Now, speaking of news, we go to probably what's one of the best reactions to Huckabee's comments, most powerful emotional reactions to Huckabee. And it's going to come from, surprisingly, Mika Brzezinski of Morning Joe. So let's take a look at one of those clips from this episode of Morning Joe.
It is so naive that he would trust the Iranians. By doing so, he will take the Israelis and march them, oh God, okay, into the door of the oven. It's just crass. Worse than comments that were controversial by a certain candidate that we've been obsessing over for weeks. Way worse. That's all I'm going to say.
Actually, that's not all she's going to say. She's not done. Now, but first, I want to point out how she points out that Trump's comments that got him a lot of backlash from a lot of people, even Republicans, those comments weren't as bad as Huckabee's comments, in her opinion. Now, on Huckabee's comments and Republican backlash, it's kind of interesting. We're actually not hearing a lot from the Republicans on this, which you would think is kind of weird. Well, the truth is that they do love to make Nazi analogies all the time. Nazi comparisons, calling Obama Hitler, saying that what we're doing is Nazism, which is absolutely ridiculous. Making a Holocaust comparison over a peace deal to prevent a state like Iran from getting a nuke, from getting the means to carry out deadly nuclear attacks, is bad. It's really bad, if not worse than Donald Trump's comments about Mexicans. Yet, as I said, when it comes to criticism, Republicans are pretty silent on this. And as I pointed out before, they actually love making Nazi analogies and Nazi comparisons to the current administration. And they do nothing but break Godwin's law over and over and over and over again. So I guess I don't really expect them to not be silent on this. A little bit of hypocrisy there. But as I said, Mika's not done. Now she's really going to drop the hammer. Watch.
So we were just talking, and Joe, you're right. Here's the response that I have to Huckabee's comments. If you've been to Auschwitz, if you've been to Birkenau, if you've been to any of these places where people were killed, and you see the piles of glasses, the piles of hair, the piles of shoes, and the piles of clothes, and every bit of their humanity that had to be stripped away, handed over as they went and then burned to their deaths, among other things, it's really not a good comment to say. It's a deal breaker. It should be over for him. You don't say that. And by the way, if you said it by mistake, that's a sign of who you really are. That's all I have to say. You wanted me to say it on the air? I just did. We'll be right back.
Damn.